Gary, I was going to open up this podcast feeling so motivated after ESPNW with a good word from our friend Biggie.
Yeah.
Sky is the limit, but apparently we're not allowed to say that because there's people that are on the moon.
Damn, Elle, you went to the women's summit, Elle Duncan, and you came back Jameis Winston.
Damn. I'll make you famous. Welcome to the Elle Duncan Show with Gary Striesky. That is
Elle,
why we
welcome
didn't have.
back.
Yeah, we didn't have a show this week, guys, earlier this week because logistics. I was in Ojai, California, third year in a row hosting the ESPNW Summit, which, by the way, is such a vibe. And if you can't come in person, you can definitely watch great panels, great discussions. The thing about our job, Gary, as you know, is we have a great affinity for our coworkers. They're wonderful people, but we almost never see them because everyone is
Uh-huh.
very busy. So this was a chance to 2.5 days of meeting new people, hanging out with old colleagues, like walking through lavender fields, watching people make honey. It's very
Ho-
crunchy and wonderful.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me people make honey this whole time? I thought bees made honey.
I'm just saying, like watching the people go into the honeycombs or the beehives or whatever and pull the honey out while you're golfing. You'd love the golf course there.
Damn.
Your girl
This
got out
does not
there.
sound like the Ohio I've visited before
Well,
in the
that's
middle of the Rust Belt.
yeah. It's Ojai, California, right
Ah,
outside
that
of
is
Santa
fantastic.
Barbara.
Hey, Elle, did you know, speaking of watching bees cultivate honey, do you know that a single bee only makes about a teaspoon of honey in its entire life?
Oh
So
wow.
next time you drizzle some honey over your overnight oats, or because you were in Ohio, your avocado toast, or whatever the case may be, just know that that drizzle of honey probably took 60 bees to
Yeah.
make. You're
I had
welcome.
the
Bees are so
murdering of
crucial.
60 bees for this honey. I
Yeah.
love that. I'm with that. Bees are the devil, bro. I know they're
Wait,
necessary.
whoa,
I know they're
whoa.
necessary, but they are the devil's insect because they're just real bold. Like wasps are bold too, but they'll just kind of like hit it and quit it and get out. Bees will just linger, bruh. They linger, they with you, they fly around your face, they buzz. You can't discern whether it's the ones that sting or the ones that don't. Then the ones that are like the biggest pussy cats of all, right? The honey or the bumblebees, they're enormous,
They are huge. They are
they're just
bird-like.
like, yeah, they're
Whoa,
absurdly large. Like bees are the absolute worst insect that exists.
whoa. Hold on. No. That no, you know what? Carry about this rundown, Elle, because I just learned something about you that I am not proud of. Bees are so integral in our community, in our
Okay, for
world, and
honey,
cultivating flowers and honey.
sure. Okay.
You know what, Elle? What else are we talking about
We
before
have
you
science. We could
piss
probably
me
have like
off?
humans cross-pollinate these things at this point. The only bees I like is bees in the trap
Oh,
and
bees in the trap. Bees
bees
in the
in the
trap.
trap. It kind of feels like the WNBA is the trap right now. At least coaching in the WNBA is a trap. Every time I look up, someone else is getting fired. And listen, we've talked about this in nauseum, right? There's only 12 teams right now,
Yes.
and eight of those teams make the postseason. So it stands to reason that even if you finish eighth, it wasn't a great season by your estimation. But we half the coaches in the WNBA, over half, seven coaches in the WNBA fired this year, including
Uh-huh.
the latest, Christy Sides, who was tasked with taking a rookie class and getting them back to the postseason for the first time since 2016. And she did that and was still fired. And then Steph White, who said, I'll hold your first round exit and I'll take you all the way, a game away from the finals. And I'll
Yeah.
also get fired after 2 years, which was wild to me because if you ask people around the league, people would tell you that Steph White's amongst the best coaches. Now,
Hmm.
I don't know if this is like significant timing. The rumors are linking her to go to Indiana. I'm seeing stories pop up. It's like every time Steph White's ever spoken to Caitlin Clark through history, they're trying to connect these dots, but man, it's hard out here for these coaches in the W. And the worst part, Gary, is like there's just a complete lack of patience. I mean, we saw Teresa Witherspoon after 1 year, but these coaches have had 2 years. You can't really implement any real change in 2 years. And if you're Steph White, like you got your team was for a
Yeah, it's
large
crazy.
part of the season the number one team or sitting in the one, position, and they get within a game of the finals and she gets let go. And I don't know. It's wild.
But do you think about the parity and the similarities that we've seen in other leagues? And I think as a net positive or as a net total, I think it is a sign that the WNBA is expediting their competitive process. in that, I mean, remember George Karl, Monty Williams, Dwayne Casey, all of those coaches in the NBA were fired after being named coach of the year, right? And
Right.
being taking their NBA franchises to the playoffs and into the playoffs. So I think this is maybe an indication of WNBA teams, franchises, ownership groups expecting more, expecting better. It is definitely stark when you think about, okay, seven coaches. Well, on Black Monday in the NFL, we see seven coaches get fired. We see seven vacancies. Oh, well, there's 32 teams. This is
Yeah.
this
It's
is
not
60% of the league.
58% of the league. That's wild.
Which and everybody knows in every sport, it's like a carousel. It's very cyclical that a coach will get fired, not the right fit in X market, but they will be hired and they will be the right fit or at least a temporary fit in Y market. And maybe L, that's what we're going to start seeing in the WNBA. The Christy Sides thing is the one that really kind of sideswiped me because the Fever were held to zero expectation, nearly a decade without making it to the playoffs. They exceed expectations, and a lot of that has to be coaching because your team is so young and so unfamiliar with one another. That one was strange. I don't think that she's going to be out of a job very long, but I don't know what this can be indicative of other than a sign that WNBA teams and franchises expect better competition, which I think is positive for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a part of that being, the case. I think too, like when you sort of think about moving on from someone, especially 2 years into their tenure, who
Yeah.
by all intents and purposes did what the goal or the mission of the season was to do. I'll take someone like a Steph White, 2 years in Connecticut, lost in the semifinals both years. You're firing her if you're thinking, okay, the way that the owners or team has viewed this team has changed, right?
Mhm.
Like, well, we view that this team should have been a finals team. They've got a lot of free agents on Connecticut. Maybe they're sort of reading the tea leaves and going like, you had your opportunity and you didn't take advantage of it, and now we're going to move on. Another reason to fire a coach is because the pool of someone else's grows, right? Like the more
That's correct.
available talent. Now you have to wonder with all the increased intention with the new media rights deal, with the fact that, the W is having, more spotlight than it ever has before, that they're thinking there's opportunity to go get bigger names or better coaches to come. Carolyn Peck was on a panel at the summit um, this past week in Ojai, and she brought up something really interesting when she sort of talked about the evolution of the W. Of course, Carolyn Peck was the first Black woman to win a national championship as a head coach at Purdue's, and the W was a GM, like all these things. And she talked about how one of the glaring differences was, apart from the play of the girls, was the coaching struggles. And it was
Mhm.
that, you're going and you're trying to get all of these coaches that have never coached at a professional level, that were a little bit in over their heads, and didn't really know what to do, how to coach professional women. And they were trying to coach with this sort of college approach, this college style.
Yeah.
And that what she's seen change the most is just how much better the talent pool has gotten of coaches, how much more money they're making. She brought up Becky Hammon getting that $1 million contract, highest paid coach in the W. At the time, I believe that is still such. And so you wonder if that's a part of it as well, right? That's like, you know what? We're going to have better options, more options,
Mhm.
people that we think that we can take that. And then, I think thirdly, maybe the question is, does the job itself change a little bit, again, based on what the players look like now and what the expectations are? So to me, on its head, it's like inexplicable. Some of these, like some of them you could understand, culture thing, you don't like the way the culture is going, you want to change it up. But if the goal of every season is to start out, if you look at Indiana in particular, to make the postseason after not making the postseason since 2016. And you also have to think about the development for the players. I mean, this is now
Yeah.
another coach that Caitlin Clark. I immediately
Correct.
joked and was like, Lisa Bluter is going to come out of retirement.
Hey,
Caitlin Clark,
let's
Iowa's
go.
coach, and she's going to go there.
Hey, she's right
Yeah.
down the street. I mean, she's pulling up to all the games anyway.
She right there, you know what I mean? Ain't nothing to just slide her a little clipboard. But again, you're talking about a team that really started to catch fire towards the end of last year. And now they're going to go through another coaching change.
Yeah.
And, for Aaliyah Boston, that's going to be, her second coaching change. This will be the same thing for Caitlin Clark. So you just wonder how much you're stunting their potential development or growth, or at least delaying it by bringing in a new regime. But I've got to believe that they've got some plan here. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm going to sprinkle just something real quick before we move on to the next topic is when you have Caitlin Clark on your team and everything runs through her franchise wise in large part, obviously the WNBA's growth. I don't think Fever Brass make that change without Caitlin Clark signing off. So if she did sign off, or at least said, "Hey, do what you got to do," is that an indication of little bit of trouble in said locker room, and that's why they let her? Listen, if Caitlin Clark was like, "That's the coach that I want to um, progress with," they don't make that change. I don't know, just in my estimation. Maybe they didn't even bring her into the fold or let her know, but just something to think about because it's the
Well,
off season, so
I
we're
think
gonna
we
let it
always,
boil.
I think we in a way try to scapegoat players by saying things like that. We always give that, we always put that at the feet of LeBron. Like he
Yeah.
had to have signed off on this. And like, certainly LeBron now probably has like some say, or at least is given a heads up. Like these are the candidates. Do you have any thoughts? But I don't think that Caitlin Clark was, it was one of those, I don't think it's Gladiator, right? Where he's like,
Oh,
does he live or does he die? I don't think it's
win
anything
the
like
crowd,
that.
win your freedom. Come on.
Right. I don't think it's anything like that. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, would I be surprised if Indiana went to her and we're like, we're thinking of making this change? And, this is obviously going to impact and affect you. And do you have thoughts about it? But I don't think it was one of those, if you want Christie, we'll keep her, but we want to fire. Are you good with that? I don't know that that's fair to say that,
All right.
that there was an involvement in that way. But let's run
Yeah.
through a few of the other storylines
Sure.
that we're following very quickly. I'm going to ask you yes or no. And then you have like 10 seconds to explain. Can the Liberty repeat?
Yes. There's no indication as to why. I mean, listen, we just spent the last 10 minutes talking about how the competition has increased, but with all intents and purposes, the Liberty will be returning their core. They still have their head coach, and they got the first one off their back. So until you are proven otherwise, you're the champs.
Okay. Can the Aces bounce back and cut ties because they just cut ties with their GM? Do you see them being a contender?
They got Asia Wilson still next year?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Next.
I mean, but you know what? Honestly, though, they do like some of the weaknesses that were concerns coming into the season have not been addressed yet for the Aces. And that was, we've heard Dre and Shanae talk about it a lot of the analysis, which was that they never replaced sort of what Candace Parker brought off the bench. They don't have a super deep bench. And then that really showed in the Liberty series,
Oh,
who were
damn,
just
I
bigger than
forgot.
them
Yeah,
with the
Candace
length.
Parker.
Right, they had Candace Parker, right? So
Yeah,
so the
okay.
length was a concern. It was a concern going into the season when they didn't really replace her and add significantly to the team. And I think the length is a problem now. So when you're talking about being a contender, every year you're looking at who's the top dog. That top dog is the Liberty. The Liberty just
Yeah.
ended our season. How do we arm back up to compete with them? And they could potentially lose Kelsey Plum, who's a free agent, and so you're gonna need to replace that, a really great post player, and you're also gonna need to bring some more offense in. But again, it is Asia Wilson, and I certainly wouldn't sleep on them. What about what about Fee? What about Nafisa Collier? Can she win her first MVP next season?
Of course, she can win her MVP, first MVP next season, but I think we're going to be having the same conversation, Elle, in August and September, leading into the finals in October that we had this season. Caitlin Clark's going to get 1 year better. Asia Wilson can't count the MVP out until the MVP is counted out. So can she? Yes. Is she the odds-on betting favorite right now? I don't know, but I don't know that she should or is, if that makes sense.
She absolutely could be because honestly, if
For
Asia
sure.
Wilson wasn't playing in video game mode all year, Fee's numbers dictated she would have won the MVP. When you looked at the numbers and her averages and what she was doing, any other year, that would have been good enough for MVP. It just wasn't
Okay.
this year because Asia was completely otherworldly. So she absolutely can. Will DT come back or retire? Diana
I
Taurasi's been doing this little game with us a little bit, not saying what she's going to do. I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is a retire. Even though the Mercury fizzled out and they got dispatched this past season in a way that was sort of like unfitting for a first ballot Hall of Famer and somebody with that sort of pedigree, but to ramp up and camp and to go through the regular season. Listen, last year was the year that she went out with a Olympic gold medal. That's going to be the year that people remember her retiring, not the Mercury fizzling out and not doing anything, postseason or otherwise. I think she retires. 20 years is a clip.
It is. And to your point, I think she can really in on that bright spot of that Olympic year
Yes.
and accomplishing something no one's ever done. What, six Olympics? It's like really
Six
special.
gold medals. Like,
Yeah.
damn, save some for someone else.
Super special. Certainly she was going to take her time and wait until after the finals and let everybody have their glow. I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see and see if it's maybe wrapped up in something UConn like. You know,
Okay, see, hold on.
sources tell us there could be a very big UConn game coming up very soon that a lot of the legends are going to be at to celebrate
Okay.
Gino Auriemma, and maybe that would be a great opportunity in front of the UConn crowd where her career started to announce that she's not coming back. I'm just saying. I'm
Okay,
just
see,
saying.
I knew, see, even before you started going to that, I was like, Ella's talking with sort of like, Elle's sort of talking with that twinkle in her eye. She knows more
No,
than
this is
what
a
she.
complete guess, by the way. This is
Oh,
total
boy.
conjecture. This is total conjecture. I'm just connecting dots. I'm saying maybe. And I think that would be really cool. In the same way that Paige announced, I'm coming back for a final year in front of the UConn crowd. Like I could see, I don't think DT is the person that needs to go around and get the golden parachute tour and needs to get the farewell tour and people give her couches and shit like that. But I definitely could see her wanting to stand in front of that crowd that means so much to her at a place that means so much to her, in front of a coach that means so much to her and announce. I mean, it would be a dope moment. I'm just saying, but
Okay.
I wouldn't bank on it. I'm getting no secondhand information, by the way. I completely made that up. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I've got two more for you.
Okay.
Which team do you think is going to win the lottery and get Paige Beckers? Speaking of UConn,
Well, I think that everybody, not everybody, but I think for the sake of the WNBA, it should be the LA Sparks. It should be big bucket Beckers in the second biggest market in the WNBA. And then all of a sudden, you have this coast to coast rivalry. And I understand that there's plenty of talent out there on the West Coast. But I think it's fair to say that people have been following Paige Becker's basketball career since she was in high school. So if you want to add another name that immediately has national notoriety, I think the Sparks winning the lottery, team her up out there with a returning Cameron Brink. That's what I think WNBA scriptwriters would want. I know you would want the Atlanta Dream
they don't
getting
have
her,
their pick though. They
but
don't,
they
they don't
don't
have
have
their
the
pick.
pick.
They don't have the pick.
So
Um, So right now, the odds of winning the pick, the best odds are the Sparks, followed by the Wings, then the
Dallas,
Sky, and then the Mystics.
okay,
Um,
and none of
I
those
don't,
other teams do anything for me.
well,
Like
I mean,
Paige Beckers,
honestly, well, Paige with Enrique Gumbawale would be very interesting. I mean, they would shoot the lights out of the gym, that's for sure.
yeah.
And Paige bringing her brand of defense, and but
Damn, think
I
about the
don't know.
talent that would be in Dallas in Dallas's professional basketball ranks too. Paige, Enrique, you got Luca. That'd be a bit of a hub.
It'd be a bit of a basketball hub. I'm not gonna lie though. I mean, the Mystics are a former WNBA champion team. Elena Deladon, who's been the face of their league, is getting, a little more seasoned and,
Hmm.
and likely career is coming to an end soon. It would be kind of fire to bring like basketball, a great this is like what the Wizards have been trying to do that they were not able to do, which is just like bring a really top big name person in so that they could really wrap their arms around them. And like, but with the football, like Washington's becoming a little bit of a vibe. So I think like Paige going and being the face, because if you go to LA, yes, it's a nuclear arms race between her and Rakia and Cameron, but there's not necessarily a figurehead. There's not a face. And like she can go to Washington and she can be the face of that. Arike Gumbawale is like the face of the Wings already, and Angel Reese is already the face of the Sky. So I feel like in terms of for Paige, like where she could go and really affect the most change and sort of have a team wrap their arms solely and completely around her, it would be the Mystics.
Geographically too, I guess she's from Minnesota, so I guess that would be the closest to playing sort of in a region that would immediately have her back. Not that going to any of those other markets would be otherwise, but yeah. But I think for the most part, maybe I'm speaking out of pocket. People want to see her in a Sparks uniform.
Yeah, I mean, it would be super nice. So Hollywood. She's
Yeah,
Hollywood,
it's very
like in a
Hollywood.
positive way. Like
Yeah,
she's written for LA for sure. So we'll see
yeah.
how that plays out. Let's move on though, because you know what today is, or the day that we're taping anyway.
Boo!
Halloween. So we're gonna do some spooky storylines and rate how scary they are. And by the way, we're also gonna run through our top three scariest movies of all time.
Yeah.
And I for sure am gonna introduce you to some movies that you've never actually seen in your life before. And
Yeah,
I'm really
definitely. Well, I'm not a big spooky, like I'm not a guy who's willing to like, yo, let me go scare myself. No, but have I watched some spooky movies? Yes. Is my list 1 through 3 the same exact movie? Also, yes. Also, Elle, you and Omar are the kind of house that gives out the full-size candy bars, huh?
no. What? Hell no. We're the house that like, I mean, we have littles, so we go out and trick or treat. So we're the house
That's
that leaves
true.
out a big bowl and is like, honor system,
For
they
real,
never
you guys have a
do.
sign that says take one, and then
Yeah,
you
it's
check
just
the ring camera, and then it's
we don't
like,
even put a sign up. We just put a big bowl of candy out. We're like, do your best.
for real?
Yeah, we're a little bit in the duck off, so it's not like exactly like we're getting a ton of traffic
Yeah,
anyway.
you
So
guys are kind of tucked away. Yeah.
yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
exactly. All right. So how scary is it that the Chiefs are undefeated and Patrick Mahomes leads the league in interceptions?
Yeah, it's spooky for everybody else because I think to a man, everybody that we've spoken to on Sports Center and all of our NFL figureheads, if they are the lone undefeated and they are still finding ways to win games, and they got tested this past week by the Raiders, they only won by a touchdown. But just wait until Patrick Mahomes actually turns it on. Like, damn, for real? Wait until Travis Kelce turns it on. Wait until Patrick Mahomes and DeAndre Hopkins start to click. Like, we're now entering November. It's about that time when the Chiefs are going to start rounding into form and looking like the Chiefs. Listen, everybody has the playbook on them. Everybody has a scouting report on them. So it's just harder to win in the NFL. But Patrick Mahomes is playing so much unlike Patrick Mahomes that when he starts to, everybody should watch out.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Broncos won a Super Bowl with their incredible defense
Mm.
and an aging Peyton Manning that wasn't playing particularly well that year either, right? I
Coming
put
off
faith.
neck
Now, listen,
surgery.
yeah. Well, I mean that this was years after that. This is
Yeah,
his final year. This was years after that. But
but
but what I say all that to say, while this Chiefs defense is not as historic as that Broncos defense was, this Chiefs defense is very good, and that is why they are winning these games. And I would put Patrick Mahomes figuring this thing out once the postseason starts. Like I think Travis Kelce's sandbagging. They don't need him right now. And again, like with the injuries that they've had, they'll start to get a bit healthier. He'll start to have more chemistry with D Hop. It's incredibly scary. I said this on First Take last week. Like they asked which team's scary right now, the Ravens or the Chiefs, and I was like, it's the Chiefs, dude.
it's
And
not even
why?
close.
Because they're not playing well and they're undefeated. I
Yeah.
mean, that's frightening. All right,
Ravens can't close out a game.
how
They've showed us
scary
that.
is it that the Colts quarterback, Anthony Richardson, felt comfortable enough to admit that he has a lack of conditioning and needed to come out of the game? That's wild, bruh. That is very wild and very of this generation. I think they overshare. I'm like, bruh, you do
Straight
not
up.
say that out loud to anyone ever. And now we're seeing the ramifications because, well, they decided to go with Joe Flacco.
Listen, credit to Gen Z because they are the generation, whether you are supposed to be a generational talent and the new franchise cornerstone for an NFL franchise, one of only 32, or just somebody who took a part-time job at Starbucks. They are going to tell you how they feel, and they're going to tell you when they don't want to work. And they might walk out on a part-time job, or they might pull themselves out of an NFL game that has high stakes. It's not scary though if you were one of the people. I'm not patting myself on the back here, but if you saw Anthony Richardson play in college and said this guy completed 10 passes, in multiple games and his efficiency was awful, his completion percentage was awful, how do we expect him to be better in just his second year? He was injured last year in his rookie campaign. It's not surprising because a lot of people saw this lack of progression from him. I mean, he's 22. Does he have more football in front of him than behind him? Obviously, yes, but man, the progression, the development, it needs to ramp up in a big way. They better be so thankful that they got Joe Flacco.
Words you don't think that people are going to utter 15 years into his
Facts.
career. And lastly, how scary was Dwayne Wade's statue outside of Miami's arena? It was, I don't understand when they said that he was a part of this scary, like that he was part of the committee, and they will. Don Staley's getting a statue built right now. And they reveal it in stages to you. And she is like, they send them to you. They're like, here's what it looks like now. Here's where we're at now. Here's what the size. They really
Yeah.
overshare so that you can collaborate on this. How he signed off on that is
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, that's nuts. The most uncomfortable position to be in isn't the sculptor. it isn't the people who are suffering secondhand cringe. It's got to be Dwayne Wade who's got to stand in front of that thing and like put on a good face and then afterwards say, it doesn't matter that this thing doesn't look exactly like me. It's a representation. It's supposed to be a representation in the spirit of. I'm like, no, no, this is supposed to be a direct representation of what you look like, bro. If you take a
Right.
look at like these ancient marble statue carvings, like how do we not have the ability to replicate that with modern machinery? And they were doing that hundreds and thousands of years ago with a pick and a chisel. Like, what are we
Right.
doing? What are we doing?
It's like you should be able, if you blindfold someone and you just put them in front of a statue, you should be able to discern in some way, without all the other context clues, who that person is. I should not have to see you standing in your statue, standing in front of Miami's arena and connect all those dots to go, oh, I think that's Dwayne Wade. I should be able to look at that statue and go, that is Dwayne Wade. I don't
Well,
know who the artists are for wax figures, but I feel like, and again, I'm really showing how much I know about art
it's
and
Madame
how you bronze
Tussauds.
things. I feel like you could just take a wax statue, you could just like bronze that, and because those are pretty
Mhm.
accurate. And then you could just like pop that thing up. I think probably he would have preferred a wax statue
Yeah.
over just a bronze statue if it was going to look like that. It's wild, and especially because he's cheesing so hard. It just the whole thing is off. But Dwayne Wade, ever the classy man, he was like, he acted like he had an emotional moment and like he didn't want to cringe and run. And he was like, wow, I can't believe it's happening. Congratulations to him. I just hate that's such an amazing thing. You get a statue outside of Miami's arena, and all anyone is talking about is how it sort of topped Cristiano Ronaldo.
Straight up. They're like, why outside of the Heat Arena do they have a statue of Lawrence Fishburne in a Dwayne Wade jersey? What's going on here?
It is giving Lawrence Fishburne, bruh.
Yo, straight
Like
up.
when his face morphs when he goes through the portal on the Matrix.
Yeah, they're gonna something tells me something tells me they're gonna have another crack at that.
Sure hope so, because from what I hear, bronze statues aren't expensive at all. All right, scarier than that is the scary movie time. Shall we get into it, friend?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so scariest movies of all time.
Oh, I've heard of these.
And did you put the same movie in three times? Was that your dirty work?
It was and
Okay.
once the viewers and listeners figure out what movie this is, they'll be like, yeah, he nailed it. Because all of the ones I'm seeing your list, all of yours are scary in that like they were made to be scary, right? Mine is scary because it could happen.
Well, and it did. It was based off a true story.
Yeah. You didn't need, let me turn the lights on in my room real quick as we talk about The Strangers being the scariest movie I've ever seen. Like, I watched it during the day. I'm pretty sure I was with people, and yet
Mhm.
still it sent like shivers down my back. Why are you doing this? Because you were home?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Because
That's
you were
so
home. The
scary.
way that they talk to the masks.
Yeah.
Like, listen, you're not wrong. The Strangers is a terrifying movie. Like one of those movies that, I obviously saw as a grown up when it came out, and I was like, oh, like this is going to impact me. Like I'm going to be like, I don't think I'm ever going to want to go to the woods or like anywhere in isolation because I really do. And every time I see, one of those sort of cabins in the woods, I think of The Strangers. It's
Mhm.
horrifying, because it's incredibly suspenseful. I think when I think of scary movie, I do think a little more like jump scary. That
Yes.
movie was like incredibly suspenseful for all the
Yeah.
reasons that you laid out, and it's loosely based on a true story. That couple, they don't really know what happened to them because they died.
Mhm.
But it's very similar in terms of like they were in a cabin, and I believe they were in New York and all those things. If you haven't seen The Strangers, Gary's not wrong. Like that is it's
It's
not for the
spooky.
faint of heart.
When she was sitting in the living room and it was just silent, and then out of the darkness comes the guy, steps
Oh
out,
my God.
and then he steps back in the shadow. And
Oh my God.
listen, as a guy who has a house in the woods in New
Yeah.
Hampshire,
Yeah, you do.
any strangers that are listening or watching this program, just know that I keep that thing on me at all
I stay
times. So
strapped.
do not, even though there is a Strangers 2, do not try to make any sort of sequels or what do they call a third iteration of
Trilogy.
trilogies. Don't take that ish elsewhere. Elle, what are
Strangers 2. Yeah, Strangers 2, not good, by the way. You don't need to watch that one. Just watch the
oh
first one with
perfect.
Liv Tyler. So good. All right, I'll go from 3 to 1 for me. So I wanted to go with an international flavor. There's a Korean movie called I Saw the Devil that is one of the most like it's actually not jump scary. It's like a suspense thriller, but it is like your heart is going to be racing, your throat is going to be like like it is so terrifying because again, it could really
Pulling
happen.
stuff
It's
apart.
like on some serial killer stuff. And that's kind of what Wolf Creek is as well. Wolf Creek is from our good Aussie friends down under.
Oh,
And it's two women backpacking through the Australian outback and they run across the wrong man. And he is incredibly scary and creepy. And it's very suspenseful. It's kind of in line with The Strangers, those two, I would say. And then
okay.
the other two, I went like straight scary movie. In terms of being a grown up, one of the better scary movies that I've seen. I love scary movies now. I didn't when I was young, but now I love them. The
Why?
Babadook.
Why do you love
Because
them?
I have bad nerves. I'm scared of the dark. Like I'm still a little scared of the dark. Like I can't sleep in the dark. There has to be some kind of light or something on. I like imagine things in the corners. I still
Straight up.
sometimes like
So wait, so
jump in the
why do you
bed.
like scary movies then?
Well, because I live with someone now, right? Like I have a
Yeah.
husband, he's here, like he'll protect me. Also, I just know that like there isn't a clown under my bed. I'm grown now. I have the benefit of
Well, you don't
hindsight.
know that for real.
But the Babadook is so good. It's so creepy. It's so fucking scary. It's also, I think, foreign. It might be from Australia as well. Are you noticing a theme? I love the Aussies.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
It's terrifying. It's a mom and a son, and they're both get like possessed and try to take each other out. And it's just like, and
Wait,
he's
the
one of the
mom and the son for
creepiest kids.
real?
Yeah, it's like he's one of the creepiest kids you've ever seen. It's really, really a
Let me
good
look up the
movie.
art. I know which one this is. The Babadook.
The Babadook.
Ah, yeah, let me look it
Check
up.
that one out. And then
Oh
finally,
yeah, yeah. The art is really scary in that one.
yes, all of it is just like so freaky and weird. And then finally, my number one scary movie of all time, because of the impact it had on my life,
Ah,
is It. And that's because I watched it too young. My mom told me I could not watch it. I was probably 8 years old when it came out. My sister, I conned her into letting me watch it with her when my parents were not at the house one day. And I have been terrified of clowns ever since. Terrified. Like, can't be around a clown, can't look at them. I don't like them. It's gotten better as I've gotten older. I realize there's not some like monster clown that's snatching kids and throwing them in the sewer, but still. I look at sewers differently. I look at red balloons differently. I look at sinks differently since it. I look at clowns differently. They all
damn.
float. And when you're down here, you'll float too. I mean, all of the lines are horrifying. The first It, by the way, not the recent It,
Yeah,
the first
okay.
one with Tim Curry. Pennywise is one of the most horrifying characters of all. Like, it for me, listen, the special effects haven't aged particularly well, but it is so bad. The miniseries It, you've got to watch it. It's so horrible and scary. And to me, it's the scariest movie of all time.
What is scarier in the mind of Elle Duncan? Pennywise coming at you, you're home alone, chilling, or you're in a public area and there are men around with feet exposed. What's
Well, I mean,
scarier?
yeah, I mean, Pennywise for sure. But if the men were trying to touch me with their feet, the feet, it would be the feet. I noticed a
It's
few
so
this
good.
weekend at Ojai, a few of the workers. I was like, you guys are allowed to wear your feet
Like
out
y'all gotta take
professionally.
those back.
Like,
I
there's
gotta
no beach in Ojai, sir. We're like up in the hills. There is no
oh,
reason to have your feet out. You're
it's
not
Cali
working on a
cool.
beach.
I got a one scary story about a balloon, and then
Okay,
we'll let you go about your day because you have to take a nap. So you'll be thinking about this story. So me
great.
and my boys used to take a spring break trip when we were in high school to Bear Lake in Logan, Utah. And Bear Lake was on the other side of this mountainous road to Logan. So we would go there to like buy Black and Milds and stuff like that. So we were driving through this windy mountain road on the way back to the lake house, and it was two cars caravanning with one another. And it was nice weather. It was because it was spring break, so April, May, and we're coming around this mountainous corner. It's only us. Alan, I do not. We come around this corner, and I was sitting shotgun in my friend Noah's car. We come around this corner, 2-lane road, and right in the middle of the road, floating at eye level, was a balloon.
Cough.
I I swear to you, was a balloon. The string was straight as an arrow. We came around this corner and saw this balloon eye level in the middle of the lane floating. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about this
Me
story.
too.
And it was just floating. And back in the day, 2004, we didn't have LEDs, so these were halogen headlights just to add a little suspense to the story, right? So it was just like this mysterious balloon. But here's the thing. I'm getting goosebumps because every time I relive this story, it's weird. We start freaking out. We drive past the balloon, both cars. The balloon didn't move. We just went around the balloon. It didn't whoosh off into the wind. So we freak out, and there was like 10 of us. So we're like, F that, we gotta go back. So we turn around, and when we turn around, balloon was gone.
Oh,
It was insane.
that
Hell,
sounds
it was like one of the most freaky extraterrestrial, like, you know what I'm saying, experiences I've ever had in my life. It was insane.
that sounds horrifying.
So like we then started Googling, like, was there a car accident on this road? Like maybe a kid died in a car accident. We couldn't find anything, but that that was real.
Oh my goodness.
So
That's
spooky.
see, but that's the difference between like boys and girls. You guys are like that commercial where they're like, why don't we go hide in the running car? And they're like, are you crazy? Let's go hide behind the axis. Why would you turn around to investigate that? Like that sounds scary, and I would have hightailed it out of there.
Because there were 10 high school dudes, and we were like, okay, certainly 10v1. Maybe we'll lose a couple of us, but we
I was
gotta
gonna
go
say
back.
versus a poltergeist.
Like we gotta go back and explore this. And we turned around and the balloon was gone. It's
Wow.
nuts.
Well, I'm
Nuts.
glad you're still with us
Yep, me too.
and only possessed by a golden doodle. That's what you are.
That's right. Homie's right here. She got my back at all times. Elle, welcome back.
Thank you. Happy Halloween to everybody. I hope whatever you're doing, trick or treating, avoiding your kids, whatever that looks like. Just quick question for you. What's the cutoff for you? If you see someone come up to your door with a bag at age blank, you're going, get the out of here, man.
Listen, if you have the gumption, if you got the passion, all right, to pull up and get some candy, I'm handing it out regardless.
Oh, wow.
But you have to have some effort. Like, you know, sometimes I've had the high school kids just dressed in their school clothes and they just have the scream mask on or something, or just like blood on their face, like face paint, I hope. I'll give them some candy. But you can't just come like raw dog the door with just like a pillowcase and no costume.
Yeah, you need to wait until later. You need to let the littles come and get all the candy, and then whatever's left is left for you.
Yeah.
Like I hate when they show up early too. I'm like, no, 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 no. You're a 7:30 play if you're a grown up. Like you
Yeah.
don't come. The littles come at 5:30, especially in Connecticut because it gets dark so early. And then if there's anything left, like the dum-dums or the candy corner, the candy, then the grown-ups can get that kind of candy.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I
like,
hit the
stop.
lights though. I hit the lights pretty early. Because you've been to the crib. I'm on the one-way street. We had three trick-or-treaters last year. Three. And I bought 90 full-size candy bars from Costco. What a waste. What a waste.
I love it. He's just hoping and wishing and praying and sitting on the patio just waiting for kids to come that never would.
Yeah. So I more Reese's for me.
All right, we'll see you on Tuesday then, friend. Have a
Peace out,
wonderful
Al.
weekend, and we'll holler at you guys. Remember to rate, review, subscribe, drop a comment, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think the big storylines are, what's scariest, chat with us. Let's conversate.
Ho.
Not a word.
Let's get it.